So we're back then with what will be the final DATAMINE video for Marvel's Avengers for the time being. The reason being, the only data mines that I will look to discuss on the channel are ones that have actually been posted in some way on the official subreddit, and they're up there for a fair amount of time as well. That applied to the Hulk video I done a few days ago. There was a data mine on that, and the information is still actually up there at the moment. But we have some information on Black Widow that was available via the subreddit. As always, data mines are subject to change, and the way they actually work, because it's essentially reading lines of code, they are very much open to interpretation as well. So just everything you see in this video, bear in mind it could change, and also I'm giving my personal opinion on it as well. I could be completely wrong, so just do bear that in mind, but I still think it is fun to speculate and see these things. But we're going to check out Black Widow. There looks to be a lot of interesting options available for her. If we get any further data mines showing up on the Reddit, and once again they stay on the Reddit, then I will be looking to do videos to break them down, because I have a lot of fun doing this. But let's jump in and let's check this out. We start off here looking at the intrinsic ability for Black Widow. Now, as far as I'm aware, the way this works, because it wasn't actually broken down in the beta, is that you've got the red bar at the top, and that fills up as you're actually getting hits on enemies in quick succession. You can't get hit yourself, or if you do, it actually just goes straight back down to zero, and it has to build itself back up again. Once you get to a certain point, you do get a damage buff on her, and looking at this data mine information, if it is correct and doesn't change, then you'll be getting some other interesting buffs as well. So at the top, you've got what's essentially life on hit, so that'll be really useful there. You've got increased status damage, so that'll be your status effects like cryo and gamma. I've actually got a video on that coming up pretty soon. You have the ability potentially for orbs to drop more often. I've seen that in a few other characters. You've got an increased critical hit chance, you've got increased damage, you've got potentially increased damage from getting headshots. That's nice that it actually rewards that. And then you've got some health regen thrown in there as well. We have another page here to do with the intrinsic ability, and looking at this, I think the code in here for all this is actually just the fact that when the intrinsic overbar fills up, it gives you the damage buff for all your abilities, but they have to actually list them. Reason being why you've got combo end, or you get range damage, you've got stun damage, air damage as well, because it does increase it for all of them. The two lines at the top, I've never really came across this before. It says something called increased backstab damage. So I actually wonder what that could be, if that's a new mechanic for her perhaps. On this next screen we have details of an invisibility skill. This will be her support heroic, which is Veil of Shadows. Of course we had access to that in the beta. Now, looking at various different buffs associated with this, you've got guaranteed critical hits, you've got health regen, you've got heroic regen, you've got increased damage, increased duration, which could be really pretty useful at times, especially when you're trying to capture some of the different nodes when you have modes such as that, and then increased status damage and stun damage as well. Then we've actually got a fair bit more on this Veil of Shadow skill, so let's check out the next screen. So we have some further offensive and defensive buffs here associated with this. So you've got, once again, you get higher tiers of health regen and heroic regen and damage and status damage, but it's the next page that gives us some pretty interesting modifiers for this. So we now have a list in here that's got the actual name of the support skill. You can see it all starts Veil of Shadows here. First one's not too interesting, but the second one is, it looks like it potentially increases your allies' critical hit chance. You've then got the duration of the invisibility being increased on allies as well, and then you've got Fill Heroic. So if you could fire that off and fill up the heroics of characters that maybe already just fired them off just a moment ago, that could be really powerful. That could be really nice there from a support perspective. You then have something pretty awesome sounding called Grenade Rain, so I'm picturing she would activate this and toss out a load of grenades. Again, I know I'm getting excited, but it is data mine, it may not make it in game, but it's still fun to get excited looking at stuff like this anyway. And then to finish up, we have increased duration and increased radius as well, so that could definitely be useful, the radius part. This next page we have here doesn't look to be too interesting until we actually get to the bottom. Now, there's a listing called Hidden Fang. Looking at all the abilities that Black Widow had in the beta, there was none that were actually called Hidden Fang, but we have 3 modifiers here that tie in with some status effects we know of already. You've got Cryo and Gamma that are most definitely status effects, but then you have one called Hazard as well. So what the heck will that actually be? Feel free to speculate below. We then have a list in here that mentions something called Red Room. This actually comes up later on in the DATATMINE, so we'll talk about that more then. But we have something called Widow's Bite as well. So Widow's Bite, of course, would be the Assault Heroic, which is firing out the electricity. So you can look to extend the duration on that, you can increase the stun, and you can increase the radius on it as well. Next up here we have a listing for something called Power Attack. I've no idea what this actually is, if there's perhaps other abilities in the game that we didn't see in the beta, but if there are, then I'm not sure how they could actually be mapped to the controller, because we were using just about all the buttons as it was. But looking at this here, so it states Power Attack, and you've got some interesting names for it. You've got Bowling Throw, Cluster Throw, Cryo Grenade, Hazard Grenade, so we're seeing Cryo and Hazard come up again, Proximity Mine, Shock Grenade, Smoke Grenade, Support Grenade, I wonder if that could heal people, a bit like Hawkeye's Healing Arrow in Marvel Heroes, Turret Grenade, which sounds amazing, and then Incendiary Grenade as well. So this page does sound really pretty awesome, but I've no idea how this would tie into our kit from what we've seen about the beta. So get excited, but don't get too excited, because I'm not sure if this will actually make it into the game. We then have a page that I'm just putting in just because it's pretty funny. So these listings look to be tied in with the Power Surge, which is her ultimate heroic, where she whips out the staff. You can see the name they've actually given to some of the abilities here is Gandalf's Slam, so you shall not pass when you're using this. So we have more listings for the Red Room here, but I've genuinely no idea what this actually is. The listings that go alongside it, you have Armour, Boost Assault Heroic, Boost Intrinsic, Light Power Upgrade, Light Power Upgrade Air, Ranged Power Shortcut, Ranged Upgrade, and Support Upgrade as well. But once again, I've no idea what Red Room actually does relate to. We then have Widow's Bite once again, so that is her Assault Heroic. Looks like you maybe get some different modifiers here. Explosive Finale for a nice explosion. Taser Round, I wonder if that'll be electricity that arcs between characters. And then Tesla Field, which sounds pretty great. I would love to throw down a big arc of electricity that just stays in an area and just pulses away. The remaining listings we have here will be related to the range side of things. That's our auto pistols, our charged pistols, or our regular ones as well. So looking at these here, you've got automatic pistols in this page. You can see you've got increased crit chance, crit damage, increased impact. I'm not quite sure what impact is. It may be what actually staggers enemies. And then you've got increased status damage, you've got increased rate of fire, which sounds really nice. And I would like to unload the submachine guns even quicker if you could get something like that for them. And then you've also got increased stun damage as well. This next listing here relates to the single pistol that she pulls out that does a whole lot of damage, and I've done a video on it recently, so if you're interested in that, just look back a few videos on the channel. It's just the same listings that were available for the automatic pistol, so you've got extra crit damage, chance, you've got the increased rate of fire, which could be really powerful in that, so I'm interested to see how that plays out. We then have your regular pistols. This is the dual pistols that can fire nice and fast. Again, it's just really the same here with your damage and your rate of fire and so on that's been modified. The final page we have here looks to potentially be tied in with our passives and how you can actually buff that specifically for ranged attacks. So options available are extending the magazine. You can look to specifically extend the magazine on the Magnum, the pistol, the submachine gun. You've then got different bullet types. You've got FMJ, full metal jacket rounds, or you've got hollow point rounds, increased reload speed, increased snap targeting, and I'm hoping that's something you get as standard. You don't have to spec into it, because you should be able to snap target pretty good as it is. And then you have reduced recoil as well. So that's everything that was available in DATATMINE. Once again, this was on the official subreddit for the Marvel's Avengers game. There's no other DATATMINEs on there at the moment. I do enjoy breaking them down, so if any other ones do get put up on that particular website and they don't get taken down, then I would say it's safe for me to go in and actually discuss them, because I'm not doing the DATATMINE myself. I'm merely talking about information that's already been put out there. But as always, I hope this has been interesting. Let me know what you think of some of the ideas below. How excited would you be by the sounds of that turret grenade, whatever that would actually be? And thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, and I'll see you all again soon.